Santa, get our bot in here, and we are good. So, hello everyone, this is Chris Ingerson, and it is July 16th, and this is the July 16th Text Quest Devstream. So, today we are going to be working on fixing how the woods level spawns its sections. There is currently a bug in how sections are being recycled. I believe that bug has something to do specifically with how we are basically teleporting between collections. I think what's happening there is that when we go between um, the sections that are currently spawned to another collection with a bunch of different sections, I think what's happening is that the previous section is not having its prefabs recycled correctly, and that's what's leading to our problem where assets will just be left in the scene, and that will cause overlap and bugs. So we're going to try to smooth that out and get rid of those issues today. So to get things started, I do not quite have this finished yet, uh, as far as setting up the testing goes, but we can do so. So I'm going to jump over to, let's see here. So these are the datas for what assets we have spawning in, what their various values are. I'm going to, probably I can go ahead and collapse these. I need to set up all of my sections here. So let's look for one of you, which of course is not going to be a thing because I can't have nice things. I'm assuming this is going to be the same thing. Yeah, pretty much. Okay. So we need to go to, let's see, let's look for like empty section right there. All right, this is all of our, nope, that's the book section. Grass section. There we are, section grass. All right, so all of these are our sections. These are our clutters. Let's go ahead and pop up here. We're gonna go to. So let's just go ahead and select all of our sections first. So we're just gonna open all that fun stuff. That's unfortunate. All right, grab everything here except for folders. And then immediately regret what I've done because I didn't lock this. So let's try that again. All right, so we can just plop these in at the sections. 42 different sections, that is about correct. Let's go ahead and collapse you. Then we can go ahead and collapse these. And then we're going to need our walls. So it looks like we have 2, 4, we have 5 from the looks of it. So we're looking at trees, fence, fence long, fence complete, and gate. Okay. So we have a graveyard fence, we have a tree wall, we have a fence complete, we have a graveyard gate, and we have a fence long. There we go. Long. There we go. So that's our walls. Next we need our clutter, which is about 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay, so these are going to be plain transition, grow transition, which will go here. And then we have trees, which is going to go here. Twin trees offset, ancient tree, which I believe is giant tree bottom, gravestones, which are graves, and finally mausoleum, which is of course the mausoleum. Okay, so all of this is required to set everything up properly. We are going to go ahead and make a quick test script for this. Let's go ahead and collapse this. And I'm going to jump over to here and create folder woods layout. I already have a scene in here called woods layout test. We're going to put that right here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and create a script. That's just going to be a test script here. So C# script. And I'm just going to call this, I don't want to say Woods Layout Tests, I guess, but that is pretty close. Woods Layout Test. Dollars to Donuts, I already have that as a script name. I'm curious. Oh, nope, I don't. All right. Well, that works out just fine then. So we're going to open that up. Hello, Garrett. Welcome back. How are you doing tonight? The coding is just getting started. Although, speaking of, I should probably say coding, because we're going to be doing coding today. We are continuing the Woods layout stuff that we were doing last week. And we're going to try to smooth out some of the cleanup bugs that we were seeing before where certain sections just wouldn't properly clean up. And I believe that stems from the fact that you can see how I'm spawning all of these sections is actually by direct vector 2 coordinates. But one, I need to convert these to vector 2 ends. And two, I can't actually just do it by flat vector 2 values, because when you get to the edge of a particular section, usually it will start spawning the next section, which means that you'll start getting weird overlap in vector positions that are potentially being used, which means that essentially I need to separate everything not just by coordinate but also the ID of the section that it belongs to. So we're probably going to end up making these data structures be a little bit more complicated, but in the long run, it'll be much better for us to have that little bit of extra complication because it'll keep everything isolated from one another. So we're going to go ahead and go over here to our Woods layout test. We're going to put this in the TextQuest namespace. TextQuest namespace. We're just going to have a quick public reference to Woods layout. And we're just going to call this layout manager is equal to null. Then we're going to go ahead and say public, what was it, section layout, Woods layout collection ID. Woods layout collection ID spawn. We'll say start section is equal to not null, because that can't be null. None. And I believe what we want to do here is on start, I think we just call spawn sections right here. Yes. So let's find all references here. Layout.spawn sections. On level load complete. Yep, there we go. So I need a vector 2 and that. So we're going to go ahead and say public vector 2 int start vector 2 int dot 0 dot 0. All right, and then we're gonna go ahead and hop back here. I believe what are we doing with the main hero here, because we have to position it. That might be okay. Let me double check. Cache player.farClipPlane, so we get all that fun stuff. And to simulate this, we'll probably end up needing handles. Actually, you know what? It might be easier to just do this directly inside the. It's fine. We'll keep this in the test scene for now. So when we do that, I want to make sure that we do spawn the player in the correct spot. So let's go ahead and say plane spawn. Find all references. Do we move you? We do. Okay, on menu load complete. So we're going to need to have a spawn point there. So we're going to say transform our local position layout dot get section position plane spawn offset. That's interesting. What are you? This was back before I commented things, so I don't know. Plane spawn offset, I'm guessing, is the offset from the position that we want to move it, so that makes sense. Let's go ahead and copy that. We're going to put this back here, and we're just going to say private void start paste that in here. I know that's going to throw some errors real quick. We're going to say public spawn point start spawn is equal to null. So we're going to say this is going to be equal to this. It's going to be equal to this. It's going to be equal to this, which is going to be equal to, I guess we'll give it a generic offset, so public vector 3 spawn offset is equal to vector 3.0. I'm surprised. I didn't think that vector 2 ints would be castable, but I guess they can, and the other way around is just not viable. That's fine. So let's go ahead and let that compile. In theory, all we should have to do now is just assign this Woods layout test. Of course not. Just assign this Woods layout test, give it some values, and then we should be able to just pop into the level, run around, and we should be good. In theory. I may have to spawn the player. Let's just drag them into the scene, actually. So I'm going to go ahead and say scripts. We're going to go up here to prefabs, player, hero. I'm just going to drag them, put them there. I'm going to create an empty game object. I'm just going to call this. Oops, that's locked. We're just going to call this spawn point. Okay, we're going to add a spawn point to this. Surrounding zone is none, and spawn point ID, I guess this can be planes. No. Should be forest planes. Not that it really matters. Alright, so now that we have that, we can go over here to layout. I can now assign our test script, which I have lost. It's somewhere in here. Are you serious? Where'd you go? Oof. I do not know what's going on there. That is super weird. Occasionally I seem to be having frame drops in the editor. It's very odd. Test, here we are. So we're going to come back over to here. We're going to drop you on there. We're going to grab here and here, and the entrance is what we want. With a start coordinate, I'm guessing, of whatever that is. So let's go ahead and check out what that should be. SOS, text quest, Woods layout. Okay, let's go ahead and grab the entrance. So we want our position at the start to be 510, looks like. 510. I'm not going to give it any spawn offset, and I'm just going to see what that does. So let's go ahead and save, and we should be able to spawn in like that. Been working on getting a good character controller to work on moving platforms and a pirate ship. Oof. So is this like a? Oh, I'm falling that entire distance. Did we get a null reference exception? Ooh, we did. Oh, yes. You're going to be mean about this, aren't you? How wonderful. Of course it does. Post-processing, fine. So we'll just go ahead and add a post-processing. We're going to call this, might as well, a light-dark manager, because we're going to need that. I'll just give it the freaking, of course not. Of course not. And of course I have collapsed these. Woods, look for that. Here we are. We're going to grab post-processing, darkness. Oh, right, these are the volumes. Okay. So we're going to need default, post-processing volume. They are going to be global. I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate this a couple of times. All of these are going to be in the post-processing layer. This is going to be called, instead of default, this will be dark, and this will be light. Okay. So this is just going to be here. This is going to be darkness right here. 0 effect. Light is going to be darkness lit. 0 effect. Let's go ahead and assign these pure darkness, lit darkness, fade duration, all that fun stuff is working. All right, let's go ahead and stop this, and we should be able to test this now. So we have private void start, all this. Oh, right, of course I said it, but I don't actually spawn anything. So we're gonna go ahead and say layout manager dot spawn sections. I believe that is correct. So start section is going to be start coordinates and then start section. Okay. So what's the? Are you using like a nav mesh for your character controller, or are you trying to do like just generic animation and collisions to drive everything? What's the approach there that you're taking? I actually started messing around with some nav mesh stuff on Sunday. I think I might start switching on again, off again, um, weekend development on a little side project, just because I've been playing a lot of Eternal Darkness, and I'm curious to try and make some of those systems because I think it would be something that would be achievable with a lot of what Unity has built into it now, and it would be kind of fun to just mess with that stuff. Anyway, so let's go ahead and try this again. I'm a little concerned that my player is going to always fall through the floor, which is going to suck if that's the case. Yep, right there. So that means I probably... Wow, that stuff's super metallic. Huh, that's interesting. So these blue materials are just uncompiled substances, but I never realized that they were so shiny. Huh. I kind of want to get a picture of that. It makes it look like some sort of bizarre toy land. So let's go ahead and take I think it's Control Shift E. Is that right? Yeah, so I believe that is correct. Just out of curiosity. Control Shift E. Haha! So it is. There are 2 audio listeners, which means I can turn this off. That'll stop that. And let's go ahead and just grab our hero. I'm going to manually position them, which sucks, but should work. All right. Also, yes, it does seem like the okay. So you can see that things are spawning in. It looks super jarring to us because we have a pretty decent draw distance. Normally, with all the fog, you wouldn't see any of this because it's all happening just outside your line of sight. Although, looking at it, I do realize that I do have to deal with that, the normals, which is a bit of an annoyance. Actually, I guess I get around that by not having a directional light. Now that I think about it, I don't think there are any natural lights in the. Well, no, there probably are. I need a drink real quick. Tried a physics-based controller asset, but couldn't fix the camera stutter. Best I could come up with was having 2 ships, one static for navigation, one for display on the surface for water buoyancy. So I think we need 2 special versions. Ugh. Ugh, indeed. So now I'm back to square one, trying a new kinematic-driven SPS controller. Right? I do feel like I'm in the forest of metal trees. Something seems wrong here. So I'm going to go ahead and run to show you what bugs I'm talking about when it comes to spawning these things. Actually, you know, it's very interesting doing this stuff. Oh, that is so awkward. It's very interesting seeing this stuff spawn in with the draw distance set to max because you can actually see what sections are popping in. So that section over there, that straight line, that is, if I run this direction, it's this section right here. You can kind of see it there. Like you can see it start spawning in. And this is what I was talking about, by the way. Um, Basically, what's happening here is we got lucky on our first two sections that I use because they happen to have roughly um, the same widths, which means that I'm not actually getting overlap in the first two. But I do get overlap in the second and third one. So, for example, if I run all the way over here, we spawn into this section. Oh dear, we get all kinds of weird, unexpected behavior here, which is unfortunate. Man, it's. I'm sorry, I'm so distracted by how metallic everything looks. It's really funny to me. Um, so we're just gonna run back over here, and here's where we're gonna see the bug. So you can see that that wall over there. That wall should not be there. I'm curious. So we don't actually have any errors yet, but this wall, I'm going to go ahead and zoom over to it. So this wall, out of curiosity, if I were to turn you off, okay, so you are a thing. Section info. Okay, so you're not displaying anything particularly useful. This is 6 by 11. That's its coordinate, which is possibly correct. What are you? Okay, so this one is 2 by 5. So no, automatically we know that those are incorrect. This one is correct, the one that I'm currently occupying. These ones over here, I believe, are from the previous section, as you can see here. And they are not cleaning up because those values are already in use by this section, or they are smaller than this section. So if I were to run over here, these will not clean up, and will actually get overlay like that. So it's because, this is my theory, it's because these sections are having their vector 2 coordinate values in the dictionary overwritten with some other section that spawns in. And so these just don't get cleaned up. Which means that now I have to, instead of just associating things with a pure vector 2 coordinate, I now need to associate them first with the ID of the collection that they're a part of, and then with the vector 2 coordinate for it. Then I can clean it up properly. So let's go ahead and close this down. We're going to get rid of this. Yeah, I was working on getting reflections to work on my ship, a shiny metal ship. I don't know why. There's just like something. There's something so cathartic isn't the correct term, but it just makes you feel like a kid. I feel to see those shiny objects in there. They look like toys to me. And for some reason, that's actually putting a pretty big smile on my face. So, okay, I am going to cheat here, and I'm going to go ahead and have a public reference to the hero here for the test scene. Public hero. Oh, right. I think I just call it player. Hero is equal to null, and then all we're going to do here is just say hero dot transform dot position. Well, here we'll just do local position. Local position is equal to start spawn dot transform dot local position. And just out of curiosity, because it's possible. Oh, good. SOS mono behavior. And what about you? You're an actor, which I believe is an SOS mono behavior. Yes. Okay. Good. Just making sure that all these are cached. Just wait until you turn on screen space reflections. Oh God. No. Come on. This is 2019. We're doing ray tracing nowadays. So I need to have perfect reflections bouncing off all of those trees. Actually, I don't think I could even do ray tracing like that in 2017. At least not very easily. Certainly not performing with any sort of performance. But all right. So And although speaking of working with weird and esoteric systems, um, I oh right, I'm not actually wanting to. Well, no, let's go ahead and just play. I want to see if the hero spawns correctly, or if it does get forced back down, and I'm just going to have to manually drag it each time, which would be very annoying. I've been working with addressables at work recently. Okay, so you're just going to do it every time. Cool. So we're going to force this. System.collections. We're going to make this an IEnumerator. IEnumerator. Yield return. So I've been working with addressables at work, like the new Unity addressable asset system, and it is a massive pain to do anything with that system. Um, oh, I didn't assign my play. Of course, I didn't do that because I'm stupid. Let's try this again. Um, But addressable assets are very interesting because they do actually have huge potential if you use them properly for reducing memory consumption. We're using it on a project that is trying to go onto tablets, and there's not a ton of memory there to consume. So we're trying to basically separate up the different chunks of the game into their own bits of memory usage that we can then load in with addressables and unload with addressables. And it's not a terrible system to implement. It's more of an exercise of frustration trying to learn how to properly use everything because it never really there's not really a great walkthrough on how to do anything complex. All of the examples that they give in their Unite talks are incredibly simple and do not really go over the ramifications of larger, more sprawling situations. Um, which it's not fair to really demand that they do that, I guess, but it's kind of frustrating when you're trying to handle things like sprite animations because, well, sprites. Well, for one thing, animations with sprites in atlases is just not a thing that's easily doable in Unity. Okay, we are almost correct. I think it put me at the top left, so I guess I want to have some extra distance there. So let's just do 5 by 5. Not in the Y. 5 by 5. It might be 5 by -5, but we'll see. Right? I know. Shocking. Unity's documentation is not great. Did you also know that when it rains, you get wet? Um, yeah, so I want to go -5. There we go. But it's a system that has, if you can manage to figure out how to actually use it properly, um, it's actually a system that's pretty nice. The only downside to it is that there's a frame where everything loads in, and during those moments, things can get kind of weird. So you have to be careful that you are properly managing everything. But the main problem that I have with the system is that you have no idea what is using an addressable. So if okay, so that works. So if you basically profile everything, there's the addressable system has a nice profiler that shows you what objects have been loaded into memory, but it does not tell you where those objects went, um, or what they are being used or referenced by. Which means that if you get to the end and you think you've cleaned everything up and there's still one or two things, you're just left wondering why. And there's no real good way to figure out what is using those things. So you have to manually go through your code and the build and just kind of like step in, do something, then step back out and clean everything up and see if it goes away. And if it doesn't, then you know it's in that section. It just becomes this never-ending game of I don't know, what would you call that? Hide and seek, I guess. That becomes a bit frustrating to work with. But on the whole, I will say that addressables are not terrible, although it did take several days of me wrapping our tools around them to get it to not be a horrible experience. Um, so let's go ahead and let's clear this. All right, so now we begin the actual restructuring of this. So like I said, I don't know if I want to just start this from scratch or not, honestly. Um, it might be easier. So let's go ahead and come down here. I'm going to go ahead and create C# script. I'm going to call this woods layout new. Okay. Well, you know what? No, I think we can salvage this. I have version control. I don't know what I'm worried about. All right, so basically what we need to do here is we're going to have a dictionary of dictionaries, which is, great coding practice. Just right there, let me tell you. So we're going to change a bunch of this stuff over. We're going to say, so it's going to be a dictionary of woods layout collection ID, followed by dictionary of these things. So it's basically going to be that. Is equal to new that, which is kind of gross. I'm not going to lie. But we have to separate things like this. Otherwise, we will not be able to properly clean things up if they are using the same coordinates. We'll get overlap like we were seeing. So we have to do this for everything, by the way. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this, paste you, paste you, paste you, paste you. Dictionary. Oops. Dictionary. If I could spell dictionary, I could actually do this. Dictionary. Dictionary. Oh man, the number of generic brackets that I am using here is madness. All right. Let's go ahead and get rid of this. Get rid of you. And get rid of you. Okay. The list of spawn sections, that's all fine. List of, that's good. I'm going to convert these to vector2 ints because why not? Might as well. Because everything is going to be using ints instead of floats. Same thing here. We're just going to say vector2.0. Inhabited sections. Crap. That might be okay. Yeah, okay, that's... I'm not sure if I'm going to need to set inhabited sections to be a dictionary as well. We'll try to keep it as is. So for now, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to convert all of this fun stuff. I'm going to say vector2 int coordinate followed by coordinate. Oh, right. All of that fun stuff. Gross. Okay. So we're going to have to pass in the collection ID along with this. And we're going to have to say wood sections of collection ID. And then the coordinate. Okay. We're going to say get section position. I suppose actually we'll have to do some safety checks here. So we're going to say if not wood sections, oops, wood sections dot contains key collection ID. So if it doesn't contain that key, we're going to return null. Else, if not, would section. Really? Come on, work with me here. Would sections of collection ID dot contains key cord return null. Okay, otherwise we'll return all that fun stuff. Then we're gonna go ahead and keep that copied. Collections equal to. That's all fine, I guess. Get collection offset. Might be okay. Get section materials. I'm not worried about that. Excuse me. Spawn sections. Okay. Spawn section. We get our collection and our index. And here is where things are going to start going mad. Okay. Oh man, of course it is. You know what? It's fine for now. I don't. No, that's system.link. Yep. Nope. Away with you. Okay. So that means I'm going to need to code this. So I'm going to go ahead and say private, not void. This is going to be would section get section prefab. We're going to go ahead and say we need a ID. So we're going to need would section ID. We'll say ID. And we're basically just going to say for int I equals 0, I is less than sections dot count I plus plus do. At the very bottom, we're going to go ahead and just call return null. We're going to say if sections of I dot ID is equal to ID. Excuse me. Yawning. We're going to return sections of I. Pretty straightforward. We'll make you capital. Let's go ahead and grab this. We're just going to go ahead and say get section prefab element ID. Pretty straightforward there. Are we still using you? We are. I might as well get rid of system.link while I'm up here, because I do not want it in my project. I've been slowly getting rid of it. Okay, and here we can just say again, get section prefab ID. Okay, let's come back down here, and then we're going to say if section walls dot contains key. Okay, so I need, before I do anything else, collection ID. So that means okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Problems. So I need to first up do this. We're going to say collection ID. I'm actually just going to go ahead and copy this. We're going to paste this here. Grab our collection ID. So if we don't have this, then we need to set that to be a thing. It's going to be equal to new dictionary, blah, blah, blah. And then we're going to say, if not, this of this dot contains key index. I'm assuming index, yep, that needs to be a vector 2 int. So if that is not the case, then we need to do this. Index is equal to that. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and say section walls of collection ID of index dot add wall. And I got to do that for all of it, don't I? So cool. I'm assuming these are all the same. Index add wall. Yep. So we're going to go ahead and grab this. Grab this. Oof. Oof. I don't know if I want to initialize it by default and just avoid these safety checks. Um, Man, that's so gross. Okay, I'm gonna keep all that fun stuff. So we need section clutter of index, not a thing yet. So we're gonna say section clutter of collection ID index is equal to clutter. Okay, and section collection ID is equal to collection ID. It's all fine. Wood sections of no. Here's where things. Yeah, that okay. That should be fine. So we're gonna say collection. Oops, collection ID. Okay, so that's that. Despawn section contains key. Collection ID again, not a thing. And if not wood sections dot sorry not dot of collection ID dot contains key index. We're gonna call return. This is gonna be a vector2 int again. This is gonna be equal to collection ID. Okay, if section walls dot of collection ID of index, oh, sorry, dot contains key for index. We're going to say section walls of this fun stuff. Okay, that all seems to make sense. We're going to say section clutter of collection ID that contains key index. Let's go ahead and grab this. Okay. And wood sections. Rather than doing that, we're going to go ahead. This is despawn section. Yeah. So we're going to say wood sections of collection ID. Index. Spawn sections are remove section. It's all good. Okay. So section ramp buffer. I think we're going to need to just grab the ID here. So we're going to say collection ID. Contains key index, which is going to be a vector2 int again. Take a drink real quick. We're just slowly chipping away at this massive red bar that I made. And it is going to cause problems. I am going to have to come in here, I think, after this and probably add a bunch of safety checks. I can almost guarantee that that is going to be the case. Collection ID going to be equal to here. I am doing a for each loop. Wow, how terrible is that? But I guess I have to because it's a dictionary. So this is despawn the section if it's not another wrap targets buffer area. Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah, this is where it gets complicated. the actual interactions across sections. Um, so key is equal to index section wrapper keys despawn section on the wrap targets buffer area. So the concept, since it's been a while, just to review, the concept of the buffer area, that's basically the sections immediately around you. Um, and they are also the sections that exist around spawned spawned in sections. So when you enter a teleportation, or when you enter a section that will teleport you to another section somewhere else, it spawns not only the sections around you immediately, but also a couple of the sections around the target. That way, when you get teleported over to it, you don't have a single frame where you can see a bunch of stuff, or rather, see a bunch of nothingness, and instead you'll just see a normal looking plane. So that's what we're trying to address here, but I need to iterate through everything here. So we're going to have to do a for each and a for each, which is gross. It's unfortunate, right? I hate for each loops, but we're doing it because it's a dictionary, and that is the easiest way to go through a dictionary. Otherwise, you have to do a bunch of weird stuff to like force things to be arrays, and that's just a memory overhead that I feel we don't need. So we're gonna have a for each and a for each, which is super gross. Woods layout collection ID, ID in section wrap buffer dot keys. Okay, and then we're gonna do this wrap buffer of ID dot keys, and then section wrap buffer of ID dot key. Oh right, you're an int. Madness. Despawn section buffers of I. So this would be an int. Really? Oh. Yes, these should be vector2 ints as well. Okay. Let's go ahead and come down here. Section wrap buffer. Right. Okay. I don't think this will work, but I'm going to try it. Collection ID. Collection ID. I don't think this will work, but I'm willing to try it. Inhabited sections dot remove on player exit zone. We're going to go ahead and say, so we need to remove, this is a vector2 int index, get section, and then we want inhabited sections of I, followed by, I guess, inhabited sections of I dot, what is it, ID? Oh, come on, you're somewhere around here. You're vector2 int, that's not helpful at all. Gross. Gross, 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 gross. You're just a vector2 int. Okay, I guess it's assumed that this is going to be our collection ID. Excuse me. All right, then we're going to go ahead and say index. So we're going to say if section wrap targets that contains key index. That's not what I want, is it? Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe it would be easier for me to write it from scratch. Um, okay. Trying to think through how I want to handle this. I'm going to scroll down a little bit, kind of get a brief overview. Spawn on player enter zone. Need to get a collection ID. Section, get section. Spawn wrap section. Yeah, this is too unstructured. I don't like. I generally don't like doing a major rewrite like this with existing code. It's much easier to kind of do it from the ground up. So we'll let that compile, and then I'm going to go ahead and undo those changes. Undo Woods layout. All right, we'll go ahead and reload this, and then I'm going to jump up to the very top here, and I'm going to do a quick little edit that I did before just for convenience. Header, oops, not editor, editor only. Paste you in. That's all fine. Then we're going to go ahead and wrap that in if editor editor. And if, all right. So we're going to go ahead and let that compile. We're going to grab Woods layout new. Okay. So sadly from scratch. We're going to go ahead and make this in SOS mono behavior. This is going to be a text quest. I'm going to say using sleepyowl.common. And what all do we need here for Woods layout? System.collections and collections.generic. What am I using enumerators for? Warp delay. Actually using you? Okay. No way. Is that the only thing that I'm using it for and I'm not even doing anything with it? Or do I have very sloppy code? Oh my, it's just that one thing. That thing that I'm not doing. Alright. Well, we can... I guess we're going to leave it in there because the old script. I'm just... Okay. So I think all we're really going to need is using system.collections.generic. And that is pretty much it. Okay. So for this, we are going to need a couple of things. We are going to need these values, this value. We're going to need all of this, and I'm just going to grab everything from here because that is correct. That is actually useful. We're going to paste that in there. Wood sections. Let's go ahead and grab these. I think we will want these as well. Okay. The only downside is that I should have copied those values over first because we're going to need to say collection, Woods layout collection ID, Woods layout collection ID, followed by a dictionary of this. I'm just going to go ahead and copy this and paste it in front of all of these things. Spawn sections, I think we can go ahead and just keep as a list. That's fine. Current section index is going to be vector2 int, as we said before. Vector2 int dot 0. Inhabited sections, this is where things get annoying. So we're going to paste these all in here. Do. Boom. 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 Okay. I do think that this is what I want as far as my data goes. So just as a quick overview, let me make sure. And then do. All right, so we do need to have our sections. That's going to be the things that have spawned. I'm actually going to go ahead and rename some of this stuff to make it a little bit easier for us to work with. So these are going to be wall prefabs, clutter prefabs, section prefabs, and layout data. That's fine. That way I can just reduce these to be a little bit easier. So this is going to be sections, followed by clutter, followed by walls, wrap targets, wrap buffer, and that is fine, I think. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we are now going to start coding this. Before I do anything else, we're going to jump over here to wood section, and we are going to pass these. So on player enter is called where. This is a layout index value, which is a strange vector. We're going to convert this to a vector to int. I know this is going to cause problems in the other script. We will fix that a little bit. Okay. And that means that we can convert this to a vector to int as well. These can be vector to ints. These can be vector to ints. Okay. I don't know if I want to. I'm going to streamline this a little bit. So this is going to be. Copy this. So this is going to be public event system dot action there. Yeah, that's a little bit easier. I've started trying to basically switch over to these system.action descriptions instead of declaring delegates here. Mostly because if you hover over player exit, for example, all you get is a section warp event. That's what it tells you what it is. But it doesn't really tell you anything about what the parameters that are expected for it are. And this is essentially the same thing. It's not exactly the same thing, but for the most part, this acts the same. And when you hover over it, you do get a detailed description of what it is. So I tend to kind of prefer that. So we're going to go ahead and say system.action. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get rid of this. There we are. So we have a 4-parameter section. That's good. Good that it can take that many. Do we need anything with you then? Find all references. Find all references. No. Okay, good. So we can go ahead and get rid of this. Clears up 2 lines, which is always nice. And then we can come down here. We're going to say new vector 2 int -1 -1 vector 2 int -1 -1 vector 2 int -1 -1 wrap target, huh? What are you? Where are you going? Vector 2 int vector 2 int There we go. Same thing. Apparently, God. All the -1s. Alright, so that should make that functional. I'm just out of curiosity how many of you are going to break because of that. Layout index is equal to index. I guess we're going to do this. So new vector 2 int index.x index y. And then we're going to cast these 2 ints. Definition Da, 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 da. Yeah, da, da, da. Current section index. Vector 2 int, because of course it is. Player exit zone. Go to definition. We're going to say vector 2 int. Oh, right. With an int here as well. Okay, so that solved most of those issues. And finally, start section, spawn sections. I suppose we can go ahead and cheat and just say, again, new vector 2 int. Start section dot x. Copy u. Paste this as y. And there's that, leaving only this, which I guess I can just cheat and do this. New int dot x followed by this dot y with an int cast, of course. Okay. All right, so that handles that. Now we can go back to the new woods layout, and we can save this. So the next couple of things that we need to do are going to actually be spawning things. So I'm going to go ahead and I guess you're fine. I'm not going to worry about doing the preview stuff. We're going to do that last. So let's go ahead and add our utility functions that we need. So I'm going to come up to here. We're going to say private, not void, but woods layout collection, get collection, layout collection ID. You know what? This is something that I can just copy. Get section position, get collection offset. I'm not sure I need those though, actually. So we're going to go ahead and copy this one. We're going to do this one at a time to make sure that I get everything that I need. Are you being used outside of yourself? No. Okay, that's just declared public for stupid reasons. Private, get collection. We're going to do that. All right. The next thing that we're going to want is probably section. So we're going to go ahead and say, I'm going to copy this. Get section. We're going to pass in vector2 int coordinates followed by woods layout collection ID. Collection ID. And this is going to be collection ID. And this is just called sections. Okay. We're going to go ahead, I guess let's try to get spawning working first. So I'm not going to worry about get section position. Not really. Okay, so that is something that I publicly need. So let's go ahead and grab that, I guess. Put that up at the top. We're going to make you private. Okay, get collection. Oh, let's get collection offset, which is right here. So fine. We'll go ahead and set this up here, I guess. Make that private. Collection offset is a float? That's... Huh. Okay. Maybe that makes sense. Okay. I think what this was doing is essentially for all of the sections, instead of having them, but nope, that doesn't make sense. I was going to say, I assume that what was basically going on is that for every section, I add a set amount of offset, but that does not seem to be the case. So basically, each section would move farther and farther to the right from the world origin, but the fact that we had overlap makes that seem like that's not correct. So probably that's not what that's actually doing, which is great. Okay, I'm gonna come back to here, get section materials. I don't really think I need that except for, yeah, through the woods manager. So again, I'm gonna skip this for now. I'm just worried about spawning things. Okay, so let's do this. So we're gonna go ahead and say private void spawn section. This is going to take a vector to int. This is going to be our coordinates, followed by our woods layout collection ID. This is going to be our collection ID. I really want to come up with a better name than collection ID because that sounds weird. Okay, so when we spawn this, what we were doing before is essentially we were getting our collection, then we were getting the element that we needed to spawn. Oh, this is woods layout collection. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and go back to here. Let's grab our collection first. So we're just going to say woods layout collection. Collection is equal to get collection ID. Then woods section is equal to collection.get section. Sorry, get element. Chord. And what was I doing before? Oh, it's the element. Okay. Woods layout element. Actually, let me just kind of browse through this. So we need to set our position. If element ID is equal to wood section not none, we're going to return null. Makes sense. So let's go ahead and grab that. Paste this down here. We're going to say section is equal to pool manager.request. Then we're going to get rid of this. We'll say, oh, you know, that's something I can do. I debated moving wood sections, like this list of them, to an array, or to a, not an array, although I probably should do that, might as well. Instead of having them be directly referenced on the woods layout, it might be better to make them referenceable through a scriptable object, but honestly, I don't think that that's the case because it's not like we have multiple levels doing this stuff, so not really a thing. I don't think. So I am actually going to go ahead and convert these to arrays because they don't really need to be lists while they're in the inspector. We only need them to be lists for runtime things like this. Oops. And because this is slightly more efficient, we're just going to go ahead and make them arrays. Make this a length. Make this a length. Okay. We are going to return a woods section. And then at the very bottom we'll return null, just so that we can avoid that squiggle. We are going to want to grab a get section prefab, I guess. So private woods section get section prefab, and this is going to take a, what are you? Element.id, woods section ID. There we go. Woods section ID. We're going to return null. Oops, that's a string. Return null. We're going to do a for loop for int I equals 0, I is less than section prefabs dot length I plus plus. I'm just going to say if section prefabs of I dot ID is equal to ID, return section prefabs of I. Pretty forward, and then we're going to be able to come down to here. Let's see what else we're doing here. So we need to spawn our section there. So I'm going to go ahead and just say woods section. Section is equal to pool manager dot request, and then we're just going to give it a get section prefab. This spawn section function isn't just an index, it's also, oh right, it's the element ID. Elements.id with a parent of what, actually? Oh, I guess it's just position. Okay. It's probably fine. Let's go ahead and give it a position. Ooh, not that. Not that. I'm going to paste you in there. I'm going to give it a position, followed by quaternion, if I can spell quaternion, but I apparently can't. Quaternion.identity. Okay, pretty straightforward. I'm going to go ahead and say chord.x, chord.y. All right, pretty straightforward there. And then from here on, we get to the fun stuff. So all of this is still pretty useful. Let's go ahead and grab all of these things. We're going to just go ahead. So pretty much that's going to remain unchanged. This is also going to remain unchanged. So let's go ahead and paste that down here. Okay. So we're going to come over here. We're just going to call this walls, walls, walls. I do not have a get wall prefab apparently, so we're going to need that. So first things first, we're going to say if not walls dot contains key for collection ID. So if that's not the case, we're going to say walls of collection ID is going to be equal to a new dictionary of that. And then we're going to say if not walls dot walls of this dot contains key. Oh, I forgot the dot. Dot contains key. This is going to be chord. We're going to say walls of collection ID is equal to chord. It's going to be equal to that. And then we get the fun thing. Collection ID and chord. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and copy that because that's going to go everywhere down here, as we established before. This get wall prefab. Let's go ahead and peek this. It is super low for some reason, so we're going to go ahead and come down here. Go back up to here. We're going to say get section prefab. Put it here. Get wall prefab. If walls count. That doesn't seem right. Yes. There we go. Okay, good. That's what I thought. So this is going to be sort of walls. Wall prefabs. Length. Okay. So now we can come down here. All of that stuff seems to be working. Section.transform pose. That's all good. Okay. We get our get clutter prefab. Same thing. Let's go ahead and grab that. Definition. Grab this. Of course, it was doing it the lazy way before because I was terrible. We're going to come down here. So instead of doing this first or default, we're going to go ahead and loop through it. Wow, what a terrible system. What was I doing before? That's so gross. Prefab dot prefab? Huh. Alright, fine. Yeah, this is just going to return null. And all we're going to do here is we're not even going to do this. We're just going to have a for loop. So for int I equals 0, I is less than clutter prefabs dot length I plus plus if clutter dot type clutter prefabs of I dot type is equal to type typ. I can spell, I swear. We're going to return clutter prefabs of I dot prefab. Pretty straightforward. Let's get rid of you. I'm going to come back down here, and now we need to do the same thing here, where we need to say clutter of index, except this is going to be a oh no right there. Yep. Unfortunate. Yes, I suppose that is true. Oh, look at that. Local position and local rotation. Oh, crap. Nope, I can't do that, can I? Clutter.transform.set. Yeah, position and rotation is absolute. Why is it absolute? Why do they not have a local space version of this? Unity, why do you kill me? I was at the Unite when I think it was the developers of Inside that were complaining about how Unity had this built-in set position and rotation function for transforms, and they had just arbitrarily locked it behind code or behind source code. And ever since then, I've always wondered why certain functions are either internal or why certain functions don't exist, despite the fact that they are so simple that it would take one line of code, I feel, for them to do it. And they just don't, and it drives me nuts. So I guess I'm going to keep it 2 separate calls, because why not? Right, and for this, we don't want it to be called clutter anymore. We're going to have to call it... I guess I could call this section clutter. Section clutter, and then we can do this and have it just be called clutter. There we go. We're going to need to go ahead and say, first things first, if not clutter dot contains key collection ID, I'm going to say clutter of collection ID is equal to new blah blah blah. And then we're going to go ahead and say collection or clutter of collection ID of chord is equal to section clutter. Okay, pretty straightforward there. We set the collection, we set the collection ID on the section. That's good. Let's go ahead and hop back over here. Get rid of you. Wrapping. Yep, that seems about right. I probably could condense this actually down to, yeah. Hold on. Section.wrapx. Yeah, let's condense this actually. Let's add. So I'm gonna copy all this over, but we're essentially going to try to condense this stuff into one initialize function on section. So we're going to go ahead and say, so section is a wood section. Come over to here, go to definition. I'm going to need, let's see, I think just the element and, let's see, backgraphing. Oof. Why is section wrap Z set to be section wrap X? That doesn't seem right. Okay. Well, whatever, I guess. Especially because I'm not entirely sure what this does. Oh, okay. Sure. So we're going to go ahead and go down to wood section. And we're going to take an initialize function here. I'm just going to say public void initialize followed by a woods layout element. Data, I guess, is what we're going to do here. Then if we come back over to here, I'm going to, again, copy all of this. And we're just going to paste this. I'm going to rename this as element real quick. Make all those go away. And then I can just do this. This shortens up my code in the other, in the layout script a bit. Makes it a little bit easier. Index. Right. So I'm just going to go ahead and give this a vector2 int index. So we're just going to say this is going to be equal to index. Pretty straightforward there. Now I can go ahead and instead of doing all of this fun stuff, I can just call section dot initialize with the element and the coordinate that I'm trying to spawn at. Shorten all that up in one go. Nice. Okay. Then we're going to need on-player enter and on-player exit zones. That is correct. We're going to need, let's go ahead and come down here. It's going to return section. I know that you're not doing anything right now. We need to assign our sections, of course, and then we need to add it to the spawn sections. Okay, so we're going to say spawn sections.add section. That's good. And then we also want to say sections. So we have to say if sections dot contains key collection ID sections dot of collection ID is equal to new blah blah blah. Okay, so if that's not the case. But yeah, why is there no local version? I have no idea why that is the case. I have to assume it's one of those bizarre situations where either A, there is a local version and Unity has locked it behind source code again as a little like tee-hee moment where they're just like, okay, fine, someone told them about this, but let's not give them a useful one, or another one that could be useful. Or legitimately Unity does not have a internal way of setting both transform or setting both local position and local rotation for some reason. That to me seems highly unlikely, but it's possible. I could see situations where that would be the case, but yeah, I don't know. It has to be some weird internal thing that they have chosen to either ignore or avoid or just not do. So, okay. So if we set that, that's fine. Then we're going to go ahead and say sections of collection ID. ID of coord is equal to section. Okay. So now we need to handle on-player enter zone and on-player exit zone. So we're going to say private void on-player enter zone. That's going to take a vector2 int coordinate and then I think it's a collection ID. So we're going to say woods layout collection ID. Yep, that was correct. Okay. I'm not really going to do anything with that yet. I'm going to say private void on player exit zone vector2 int coord woods layout collection ID followed by vector2 int target coord woods layout collection ID target collection ID. Okay. that is that. We're going to go ahead and jump back here. We need to despawn the section. Okay. This is where things are going to get fun. So let's go ahead and get rid of this. I'm going to keep the on-player enter zones at the bottom because that's where I put my events. We're going to say private void despawn section. Okay, and that's going to take a vector to int coord followed by a woods layout collection ID. Oops. Collection ID. Okay. First things first, we're just going to go ahead and say if not sections dot contains key collection ID. So if not that, we're just going to return because nothing's happening. And then if not sections of collection ID dot contains key coord. Again, we're going to return. Nothing happens there. I'm 90% sure I'm not actually returning anything there. Yes. Okay. Okay. So otherwise, we're going to go ahead and say would section is equal to sections of coord collection ID and coord. Pretty straightforward there. Let's see here. Section walls. Clutter. Okay. So for the most part, things are going to be pretty straightforward until we get to the buffer stuff. So let's go ahead and I think we can, for the most part, copy all of this again. So I'm just going to come down here. If not, or if walls not contains key. Then collection ID. So if we're doing that, and then further if walls of collection ID dot contains key coordinate. So if all that is true, I'm going to go ahead and come down here and do that. Got it working? Nice. So you just have the one controller then? I guess that's true. You never want to be too excited, otherwise it's just going to get thrown back in your face. So we're going to go ahead and call this walls of collection ID of coordinate.count, and then it's going to be all of this fun stuff. Okay, there's our wall. Clear. And then dot remove. I think I can do hold on. Yeah, simply we can do that. Okay, so there's going to be if clutter dot contains key collection ID, and then again further if clutter of collection ID dot contains key coord. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and say clutter of collection ID of coord. Grab this. Coord. Okay, so that's our clutter. Walls. I'm going to go ahead and just do some minor commenting here. Clutter. I'm going to come back over here. We will go ahead and grab these things. And then I'm just going to add a quick to-do here. To-do wrap buffers. Clean up wrap buffers. So this is just going to be sections of collection ID dot remove coordinate. Okay, pretty straightforward. Looking good there. All right. So the next thing we need to do, we have clean up wrap buffer, which is, oh, that's interesting. Is that only called in one spot? Despawn section and wrap buffer on player exit zone. So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and let this go, and let's see here. So, I'm gonna skip the buffer stuff for now. On player enter zone, on player exit zone, spawn wrap section. Your collection. Let's see, wrap section. Target collection. Wood section. Stock contains key target index. Okay. So. Kind of seeing what this all does. Section. Section wrap info. Oh man. That is super awkward. Within the buffer area of the wrap zone. Oof. Wrap area. I believe this is what's declared up here. Okay. So before we get too far into that, because we're already, I'm guessing, at a couple hundred. Yeah. I'm actually going to come up here and clean this up a little bit. For one, we're going to serialize all these things because they don't need to be serialized field tooltip. They don't need to be public. Nothing is really going to be referencing these things. Okay. At least nothing outside of the script. Okay. So this is going to be section size. It's going to say size of each section in units. Prefabs for walls. Oops. Prefabs for section walls. Prefab for section clutter. Prefabs for the actual woods sections. And then just data for the various well, we'll just say map data for the layout. Bleh, terrible name. And this eventually is going to be used for determines which layout data collection to preview editor. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and let that compile, and I'm going to see if that causes any problems parser, or not parser, compilation wise. I want to make sure that I didn't accidentally miss anything on the vector2 to vector2 int conversions. There we go. Cannot, yep, that's what I was kind of worried about. Let's go ahead and grab this. Okay, well, that was pretty simple, or pretty simple. Okay. Give that a second. Should it choose to do so, at least. All right, there we go. Okay. So the next couple of steps that we have here are actually going to be fairly time consuming. So I think I'm gonna end the stream a little early today, because we're not gonna finish the script tonight. That was kind of guaranteed. But mostly, I don't want to just completely pull the old code into a new script. I've been pulling in code that I know works, and obviously adding on to it to make it more organized. But we're about to get into the stuff that actually is far more complicated. And one of the things that I really wanted to handle differently is I wanted to change more or less how I'm calculating what objects get loaded in. You can see that we're doing this sort of weird absolute value comparison, and that's not particularly useful for what I'm doing. Or to put it a better way, that's a way less efficient and way less elegant way to handle this than I think I can do now currently. But I need to actually code that, and that's going to be probably a little bit of me doing it, trying a couple of different approaches. So I'm going to do that tomorrow. Well, part of it tonight, and then through tomorrow. Um, and that way, when we come back on Thursday, we should more or less have a functioning uh, layout manager, and then that will let me just do a little bit of level design on Thursday, and just build some stuff out and try to figure out if I want to do some slightly more fancy things to get things looking cool and pretty in the woods layout. But we'll see how that turns out. Hopefully, I can get this all sorted out. It shouldn't take me more than tomorrow, longer than through tomorrow, but we'll see. Um, so with that, I guess we're done for the night. We did make a little bit of decent progress. We have the new layout script started. We have our test scene is actually working pretty well. Seems to be spawning everything and positioning everything properly. The next steps, like I said, are going to be spawning in all of the buffer sections so that you don't see any frame stutter when you teleport. So that's going to be fun to try to keep things going. Oh, what poor time, Dusted. Oh, I feel terrible. I'm actually ending the stream a little early today, so I feel bad. I'm sorry. I do have a quick announcement though, before we completely end the stream. This Saturday, I'm going to be going to my nephew's birthday party. So I will be doing the weekend stream on Sunday, instead of Saturday. So just as a heads up, that's what that's going to be. But yeah, sorry about that, Dusted. That was unfortunate timing. I hope you are doing well though. uh, but yeah, so we got some pretty good progress in today. I think, like I said, the next step, after I get the actual buffer stuff handled tomorrow night, the Thursday stream is probably going to be a mixture of level design and also working on these preview utilities that I had before. That to give you a sense of what those were, I'm going to go ahead and let this stuff compile. It should be fine. Okay. So this is what the preview utility was before. If I set this to be entrance, you can kind of see that we have um, all of the meshes for the most part drawing in. I'm going to set that back to none because that's stupidly expensive. I still haven't quite figured out how to draw that properly because this is using graphics. It's not graphics.blit. It's like graphics.drawmesh or something to manually draw all this. So that's going to be a fun thing to try to figure out on Thursday. Basically trying to make this a little bit more performant. Not necessarily because we need it to be, but because I would like to figure out why it's so imperformant. This is not really an intense scene, so something must not be optimized properly there. So anyway, I think that's a pretty good place to stop for the night. So as always, I want to thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you all next time.